Welcome back, everyone. This is the final session of the first weekend, which is contracts. This morning we did MBE substantive contract review. We just did 15 questions together. It took our time and we got the right answers, and it was a pretty valuable experience. And we're going to end class with a little bit of a faster pace review of contracts questions so that we can get exposed to a bit more. Nothing to it but to do it. Let's start with this question. I'll read the first few, and then I might popcorn around the room, and I want to hear from everyone, so don't be nervous. Is the contractor likely to succeed in action challenging the validity of the settlement agreement? A homeowner and a contractor entered into a contract under which the homeowner agreed to pay the contractor $50,000 for remodeling the homeowner's basement according to a set of plans. After the work was completed, the homeowner honestly believed that there were defects in the contractor's work as well as departures from the plans. In fact, the contractor fully performed. The homeowner offered to pay the contractor $35,000 in full settlement in exchange for the contractor's promise to surrender his entire claim. The contractor accepted the homeowner's offer, and the homeowner paid the contractor $35,000. The reasonable value of the work was $35,000. Is the contractor likely to succeed in action challenging the validity of the settlement agreement? No, because the homeowner honestly disputed the amount he owed the contractor. No, because the reasonable value of the work was only $35,000. Yes, because the contractor reasonably relied on the homeowner's contractual promise to pay the full $50,000, and that promise should be enforced to avoid injustice. Yes, because the homeowner's payment of $35,000 could not furnish consideration for the contractor's relinquishment of a claim for $50,000. Any thoughts?
I believe it's A, Andrew. The reason is because so the homeowner was not happy with the contractor work, and he honestly believes the price was reasonable for $35,000, and the contractor accepted. So it's I guess it's A, because it's the homeowner honestly disputed the amount that he owed the contractor. I guess it's that one, the A.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on this one?
I'm with Pablo, because I'm just thinking about good faith. Like he's acting in good faith. So.
Okay. Anyone else disagree with A? No one? Anyone agree with A?
Yes.
What's the argument again? Like, what's the thought though about why A would be wrong if it were to be wrong? It's a consideration thing, right? It's a modification and consideration. Is this a modification of the contract to pay 35 instead of 50? And is there consideration for that modification?
Yes, there is. The contractor's promise to surrender his entire claim.
Mm-hmm. Even though he didn't have a true claim, even though he didn't have a claim that could be won, he agreed to surrender it.
He could have won, I think.
Well, it said he'd fully performed.
Exactly.
Everyone likes A here?
Oh, wait.
He accepted without rejection, so that's what I think it.
What'd you say, Grace?
No, I was rereading the call of the question, and it's the contractor. The question is for the contractor. So I think anyway, he will not succeed because of good faith. It was a good faith dispute.
Everyone out there agree with A?
Yes.
Yep.
Good job. A is correct. When the contractor accepted the $35,000 in exchange for the homeowner's good faith belief that the performance was effective and amount to a mutual discharge of duties as account stated. A lot of things that I've challenged you on to think about. It was in good faith. There was consideration because he promised not to pay, right? Good faith. Yeah. No accuracy, right. An account stated is when the parties agreed to an amount as a final balance due that discharges all claims and mutual duties. That's what occurred here, where the homeowner honestly believed that the work was defective and deviated from the plans. The acceptance of the settlement offer of $35,000 was therefore a valid account stated that surrendered all claims and discharged the original contract. Feel good about that?
Question. That reminds me of accord and satisfaction, but it's not the same, right?
No, accord and satisfaction is an agreement to pay a new amount that'll discharge the old contract. This is just an agreement to pay. It's more like of a modification, and it doesn't hinge upon you satisfying it. It's just like it's already satisfied. Like we're doing this in one fell swoop, as opposed to we're going to create a new contract that may or may not get satisfied. All right. Does a contract exist that binds the expert in the collector's estate? A toy collector had purchased 10 antique toys over the past several years and had them. I don't like that English, but whatever. This is not an English test. And had them restored by an expert in toy restoration. So he purchased 10 antique toys over the last several years and restored them by an expert. On June 1st, the collector sent the 11th antique toy to the expert with a signed note that read, "Here's another toy for you to restore. As with all prior jobs, I will pay $500 for the work and nothing more." On June 4th, after receiving the collector's June 1st note and the toy, he began restoring the toy. On June 6th, the collector unexpectedly died. On June 7th, unaware of the collector's death, the expert sent the collector a note that stated the restoration work had begun on June 4th. The following day, the expert learned of the collector's death. So on June 8th, he learned of his death. Does a contract exist that binds the expert and the collector's estate?
Can you scroll back up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Sorry, I was having trouble with the computer, but I'm thinking about discharge because of death. The collector died.
Potentially.
I don't think there needs to be an acceptance. I think that the beginning amounts to the starting of the contract.
Right, like I'm sad this man died, but I'm also feel like this guy should get paid because he started doing the work, right?
The reasonable value, right?
Not $500.
So, what answer do we like?
I think D.
Yeah, I guess it's the
I think so too. That nothing, like the contract was made, he started working on it. Your state has to buy it. It's not that he's discharged from any duties. He didn't really have any duties except to pay for it. I like D. Does anyone disagree with D? Be brave and be. Oh, don't be brave. Not an opportunity for bravery. All right. D is correct. Generally, the start of performance is considered an acceptance. For a true unilateral contract, it makes it irrevocable. The death of a party prior to acceptance will terminate an offer. Here, he began on the 4th. The death was on the 6th. Therefore, the beginning of the restoration makes it a binding contract that cannot be revoked. Excellent. All right. Which of the following is not an accurate statement concerning the arrangement between the manufacturer and the hardware wholesaler? A U.S. manufacturer on the West Coast gave a hardware retailer who was relocating to the East Coast the following letter of introduction to a hardware wholesaler on the East Coast. This will introduce you to my good friend and former customer, a hardware retailer, who will be seeking to arrange the purchase of hardware inventory from you on credit. If you will let him have the goods, I will make good any loss up to $25,000 in the event of his default. Signed, manufacturer. The hardware retailer presented the letter to the hardware wholesaler, who then sold and delivered $20,000 worth of hardware to the hardware retailer on credit. The hardware wholesaler promptly notified the manufacturer of the sale. Which of the following is not an accurate statement concerning the arrangement between the manufacturer and the hardware wholesaler? So there's an arrangement between a manufacturer that he wrote to a hardware wholesaler. I'll introduce you to these people. If you let them have the goods, I will make good any loss up to $25,000 in the event. Signed person. It was important to the enforceability of the manufacturer's promise to the hardware wholesaler that embodied in a signed writing. By extending the credit to the hardware retailer, the hardware wholesaler effectively accepted the manufacturer's offer for a unilateral contract. Although the manufacturer received no consideration from the hardware retailer, the manufacturer's promise is enforceable by the hardware wholesaler, and the manufacturer's promise is enforceable by the hardware wholesaler whether or not hardware wholesaler gave the manufacturer seasonable notice of the extension of credit to the hardware retailer. All right, this one's kind of a lot, but they're saying which one is not an accurate statement. So 3 of these are going to be accurate statements, and 1 of them is going to be a lie. I'll give you guys a second to reread over this. I'm going to read over it too. So we see what's going on here, right? The manufacturer gives this guy the letter. This guy takes the letter to the wholesaler, then then they do business, right? On credit. And then the wholesaler promptly notifies the manufacturer of the sale, and the manufacturer said he will make good any, there's a lot of notice here. So what is not accurate concerning the arrangement between the manufacturer and the hardware wholesaler?
I would eliminate A because that is accurate. Because it's a surety guarantee for another's debt.
Right. That I agree with you. It is important.
Let me see the number, the D.
B is true also because it is a unilateral contract. Is it? No.
The manufacturer.
Yeah, he accepted by lending or giving credit, right? So B is true.
Which one?
I guess D is the answer, but let me go up a little bit under to read something specific about this.
B is true, I think, because one is asking the other to do something, and the person did it, so he accepted. And by notifying, the hardware wholesaler has a duty to notify that he accepted, because the manufacturer is in another part he will not know by himself.
So what do we think on the audience? What do you think the answer is? Which one is not important? It's important that it be embodied in a writing, debt to pay for another. I kind of like what you were saying there. By extending the credit to the hardware retailer, the hardware wholesaler effectively accepted the manufacturer's offer. Good.
D is wrong. D is the answer because the hardware wholesaler has the duty to notify that he accepted, because I think that the manufacturer is from one side of the country. It's at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
from the west, and he's relocating to the east. So there's no way the manufacturer will learn of the acceptance unless he's notified.
Anyone else think it's D or disagree with D? No one has. What answers do other people think it is? Complete silence. No one has any guesses? I tend to agree with you that D is my best guess. This is a tough question. The manufacturer's promise is enforceable whether or not the hardware wholesaler gave the manufacturer seasonal notice of extension to credit. Whether I don't think so. Can you just assign this credit? I don't think so. I think that's too much because I need to know the creditworthiness of this person. Anyone have any other guesses? Any heroes? Any bravery out there? Because we might get this one wrong. I have a bad feeling. But no one knows. Okay. See, look, very tough question. 32%. And Grace, you're doing amazing. I'm very proud of you, to be honest. You're like
this is only because of the tutoring with you, honestly.
Okay, I need to go tell that to every law student in America, but
for real,
the manufacturer's offer to the hardware wholesaler was an offer to form a unilateral contract because the manufacturer wanted the wholesaler to provide credit to the hardware retailer instead of a return promise. However, circumstances require the hardware wholesaler to be given notice of the acceptance. This is a tough question, and we kind of rational it together. The East Coast, the West Coast, I want to know their creditworthiness. I think that's fair. The manufacturer's offer to the hardware wholesaler is an offer to enter into a unilateral contract, but the hardware wholesaler lives far from the manufacturer. He has reason to know that the manufacturer will not learn of his acceptance unless he gives notice. Therefore, the hardware wholesaler must give notice of the extension. You're right on point, Grace. The key to this question, actually, interestingly enough, was West Coast, East Coast. Tupac, Biggie. Okay. Let's try one that might be a little bit shorter. That's how short we get. If the neighbor sues the woman for breach of contract, will he be likely to prevail? An elderly woman underwent major surgery and spent 2 weeks in the hospital. The woman continued to take powerful pain medication for several weeks after she returned home. During her recovery, she offered to sell her car for $450 to the neighbor who owned a house cleaning service. The neighbor said, "That's great. I need a car to transport all the people who work for me to their job sites." In fact, the car was worth $3,000 and the neighbor knew this. That's not good. He also knew that the woman had undergone surgery and noticed she seemed out of it because of the medication she was taking, right? Seems like he's taking advantage of poor old elderly woman. What a POS. Several days later, the woman's son found out, this guy's been in the gym working out, about the deal and contracted the neighbor, telling him that the woman would sell him the car, but for $33,450. The next day, when the neighbor tendered $450 and demanded the woman give him the car, she refused. If the neighbor sues the woman for breach of contract, will she prevail? That's what we're leaning towards, right? That's what tasted the best. Apparent incapacity was voidable. The reliance on an otherwise voidable contract made enforceable. The woman's offer and neighbor's acceptance created an enforceable contract.
No, it's for sure A.
Yeah, A, yeah.
Nice. I'm happy that people are still here. For sure A. And again, that good faith thing. We're not going to reward these villains on contract law. Especially not against elderly old neighbors. Come on. All right. Did we do this one? I don't think so. In a lawsuit between the landscaper and the homeowner, what is the likely result? A landscaper agreed to maintain the yard of a homeowner for 6 months for a fee of $300 per month, payable at the end of a 6-month period. So maintain a yard for 6 months for $300 per month, payable at the end of the 6-month period. All right, stated. This amount was the fair market value of the work to be performed. The landscaper performed the work for 4 months. Okay, so he did $1,200 worth of work, right? But then was offered another job for $500, and after notifying the homeowner, stopped doing the work. Okay, fair enough. So he did 4 months. He left her hanging for 2 months for $600. The homeowner refused to pay the landscaper anything. Well, that's not cool. The homeowner could have hired a comparable landscaper to do the work for $300 per month. That's exactly what he charges. In a lawsuit between the landscaper and the homeowner, what is the likely result? So the landscaper's down 1,200, right? The homeowner will cover 600. Why would the homeowner cover everything? The homeowner hasn't paid anything. The homeowner just got 4 months of work done, right?
Yeah.
So the homeowner has to pay for that. It's $1,200.
Yeah, I'm leaning landscaper.
Landscaper's gonna get paid, yeah. Get paid, little homie, little landscaper. In a divisible contract, the party is owed for each unit that's performed, even if they fail to perform, right? You're still gonna get paid for what you did. You would be unjustly enriched if you got 4 works of landscaping done and didn't have to pay for it. There could be some damages though, right? If you had to go get another landscaper for $500 a month, now you ended up paying an additional $200 a month. You end up paying additional $400. We're going to take that $400 off of landscaper boy, and he will only get $800, right? All right, let's try this one. If the contractor sues the owner on the account of the extras, which, if any, of the following will effectively support the owner's defense? All right, so here we're looking at parole evidence, pre-existing duty rule, fair of express condition, and no valid defenses. A written construction contract under which a contractor agreed to build a new house for an owner at a fixed price of $200 contained the following provision. Prior to construction or during the course thereof, this contract may be modified by mutual agreement of the parties as to the extras or other departures from the plans and specifications provided by the owner and attached hereto. Such modifications, however, may be authorized only in writing, signed by both parties. Okay, these are explicit terms. During construction, the contractor incorporated into the structure overhanging gargoyles and other extras orally requested by the owner for orally agreed prices in addition to the contract price. The owner subsequently refused to pay anything for such extras, aggregating $30,000 of the agreed prices solely on the ground that no written signed authorization form was ever effected. If the contractor sues on the account of the extras, which, if any, will effectively support the owner's defense. So he wants the extras. Prior to construction or during the course thereof, the contract may be modified by mutual agreement of the parties as to extras or other departures from the plan specified by the owner attached thereto. Such modifications, however, may be authorized only in writing by both parties. Here, when you did the modifications, it says orally requested, orally agreed upon, right? That seems to be a problem, right? So, fair and express condition? People agree or no?
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Because it's not parole evidence. Parole evidence, we're gonna bring things in, but here it said that we're not paying for these gargoyles unless we get in writing, and you got it orally. The express condition never occurred. You agree, Pablo?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but
Okay, so yeah, I like that. No one wants to get the question wrong and take care of it. That's fair. Does anyone else have a different opinion on this question? Is it parole evidence? Is it pre-existing duty, or is it no valid defense? No valid defense. Well, good job, Pablo. I appreciate you sticking up for yourself. Interesting. Let's see why.
Yeah.
A provision in a written contract that specifies that any modification of the agreement is unenforceable unless made in writing and signed by both parties is referred to as a no oral modification clause. Such clauses are common in construction contracts, such as the owner-contractor agreement, and may be enforceable unless the contractor has relied on a verbal request for extras, as was done in this case. Therefore, none of the rules listed provide an effective defense for the owner. I am going to be honest, I did not even think D was going to be an answer. I thought there would be a valid defense. A lot of people
I thought after I thought maybe there's unjust enrichment, like we'll kill that answer, the one that we picked, but I don't know.
So this is why C is incorrect. An argument based on express conditions could be rebutted by showing that the parties effectively waived the condition by entering into a verbal agreement which the contractor relied upon. No oral modification clauses, however, may be waived through words or conduct. All right, here we go. No oral modification clauses may effectively be waived by words or conduct. So construction contract, no oral or stipulates extras must be in writing, but parties orally agree to extras. This will waive the no oral modification clause. Like, we had to get questions wrong today, and I'm happy we got that one wrong, because that's something I really never even considered, that literally a clause that says you can't do it can be implicitly waived. And how so? Here, the contract and the owner include a provision to limit departures of the specifications of written agreement unless these departures or extras were writing and signed by the parties. That's what I thought. The facts show that during the construction project, the owner orally requested extras and orally agreed to prices. And the owner is the one who requested them. The contractor in turn relied on the owner's conduct and words and incorporated these extras as requested by the owner. I agree with you, Pablo, now that I see it. The answer is correct. The owner is the one who requested these things. So it's like you're again trying to weasel your way out of the situation, because you wanted these extras, you orally asked for them, and now you're saying, I don't want to pay you because it wasn't in writing. But it's like you're the one who asked for them. So therefore there is no defense. Is everyone okay with that? Everyone happy that at least we got another one wrong? Because now we'll learn that no oral modification clauses are valid but can be waived. All right, let's try and end the last 30 minutes of class on a good run. As of March 22nd, which of the following is a correct statement? On March 1st, an apartment complex received a letter from a retailer offering to sell the apartment complex 1,200 window air conditioners suitable for the apartments in the complex's buildings. The retailer's offer stated that it would remain open until March 20th, but the apartment complex acceptance must be received before that date. That's an express condition. On March 16th, they posted a letter of acceptance. On March 17th, the retailer telegraphed the apartment complex to advise that it was revoking the offer. Probably not able to do that because he already accepted it. The telegram reached the apartment complex on March 17th, but the apartment complex's letter did not arrive at the retailer's address until March 21st. Well, I'm looking at this. The acceptance must be received on before that date, on March 20th. And the apartment complex posted a letter of acceptance, right? But that letter of acceptance wasn't received until March 7th or until March 21st. Here, I think I need to change locations. But can you all hear me, or am I chopping a little bit?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So my intuition right here is that there was an explicit term. The explicit term said that it needed to be received by March 20th, right? But then it wasn't received until March 21st.
Doesn't matter. He accepted on March 16th.
No, but it says it had to be received.
Exactly. I want you two to have this argument with each other, because I see what you're saying. Grace, what are you saying?
I'm saying that the mailbox rule applies, that acceptance occurs when the letter is sent. Revocation is the one that is sent. Once received is effective revocation.
Not when the contract, though, explicitly says otherwise. So it says, like, explicitly that it must be received before that date. So I think this controls because it says that.
I mean, none of the answer choices like have to do with the mailbox rule, so it kind of excludes that away. So I think it might be D.
D as in dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dogs are giving me grief right now, and that's why I think it's D2. Because exactly, Grace, you are right. The mailbox rule is acceptances are effective upon dispatch. However, there was an express term here that said it must be received before that date. The offer must be received before March 20th. It did not arrive until March 21st. Therefore, the attempted acceptance was ineffective. Let's see. Yeah, good job. Again, I'm loving this because I've done 1,000 questions. They're giving us hard questions only, which is good because when you all go back this week and are doing your 25 questions on whatever platform, you're going to get a lot of softball questions, but I like that we're getting hard ones. Because the retailer's firm offer say the apartment complex must be acceptance must be received on or before March 20th, the apartment complex acceptance did not arrive until March 21st. It was ineffective in establishing a contract. Makes sense, right? Just as we thought. Okay. If the subcontractor, so many construction contracts here. If the subcontractor sues the general contractor for breach of contract, is the subcontractor likely to prevail? Okay. Subcontractor suing the GC for breach of contract. On June 1st, a GC and a sub entered into a contract under which the sub agreed to deliver all the steel joists that the general contractor required in the construction of the hospital building. The contract provided that delivery of the steel joists would begin on September 1st. Although the general contractor had no reason to doubt the subcontractor's ability to perform, the general contractor wanted to be sure that the sub was on track for delivery. He therefore wrote a letter on July 1st to the sub demanding that he provide assurances of ability to meet the first deadline. The sub refused to provide such assurances. I'm already thinking, why are you demanding assurances from someone who has given you no reason to doubt you, right? Tell that to people all the time, like, don't doubt me, let's do the course, I promise it's gonna work out. You know, there's no reason to doubt here. Therefore, if the sub sues the GC for breach of contract, is a sub likely to prevail?
Yes.
Yes, because the GC immediately obtains storage from another supplier. Yes. Because the demand for assurances constitutes a breach. Yes, because the failure to provide assurances was not a repudiation, since there were no reasonable grounds for the general contractor's insecurity. Gotta be D. We're all shaking our heads here. Excellent.
Yeah.
D is in dog. D is in definitely the correct answer. As I was reading this word joists, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm reading this right, I can't stop laughing at myself for saying conspicuous. Like I couldn't say conspicuous. Conspicuous. I was like, do you guys know what conspicuous means? And you're like, I know that's not how you pronounce it. Okay. Let's try this one. If the homeowner refuses to retract his repudiation and the contractor sues him for damages, what is the maximum that the contractor is entitled to recover? Okay. On November 15th, the contractor, in a signed writing, contracted with the homeowner for an agreed price to personally remodel the homeowner's kitchen according to specifications provided by the homeowner and to start work on December 1st. The contractor agreed to provide all materials for the job in addition to all the labor required. On November 26th, the homeowner, without legal excuse, repudiated the contract. Notwithstanding the homeowner's repudiation, however, the contractor subsequently purchased $5,000 of materials that could only be used in remodeling the homeowner's kitchen and promptly notified the homeowner. I will hold you to our contract. If allowed to perform, the contractor would have made a profit of $3,000 on the job. All right, I didn't like this part here. Like, come on, dumb nuts. Come on, dummy. You paid $5,000 for materials that could only be used in remodeling the homeowners when the guy literally just told you that he was repudiating the contract, right? Like that seems kind of like not smart. I will hold you to the contract. Like, okay, you can hold me to it. Doesn't mean legally you're going to get your $5,000 back. If allowed to perform, he would have made a profit of $3,000. If the homeowner refuses to retract his repudiation and the contractor sues him for damages, what is the maximum that contractor is entitled to recover? Okay. So what do we think? The contractor suing the homeowner because the homeowner repudiated the contract. So the contractor was supposed to make how much or whatever. It doesn't really tell us. Oh, he would have made $3,000 on the job, right?
Yes.
So that seems to be the maximum he can make, right?
Yes.
Now, how are they trying to trick us? Nothing because he failed to mitigate his damages. Trap answer, right? Like you do have a duty to mitigate, but you can still recover what you're still recover. 3,000 expectation damages. I like that answer off the bat, but I don't know. You gotta look at the other answers. 5,000 on a restitutionary theory. 5,000 his reliance damages plus 3,000 his expectation damages. What are you, Sam? Are you thinking anything?
Sorry, the twins are lit right now. But because he was the non-breaching party, I was thinking. I'm still figuring it out in my head.
No, it's all good. Twins, you're lit right now. I don't see them ever not lit. I'm thinking it's expectation damages, and I'm thinking you're a dummy for buying materials after repudiation.
Yeah, you can't be relying on that if he knew of the repudiation, so it can't be a reliance.
Yeah. We like B?
Yeah.
Pablo, what do you think?
I guess C.
You say C?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your argument for C?
Yes, it's because he bought a material for this type of job, but so we are not putting together the profit because that is already done before the start. I believe he's gonna be getting only the purchase for the $5,000 that he already did it.
I think he should not have bought the $5,000 materials, and that has nothing to do with it, and it's just an expectation damages. Does anyone else agree with Pablo?
I think it's B.
You think it's B?
Okay, hold on. Yeah, no, yes, it's B. Yeah, you're right, Andrew, because it's yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's about he expended the 5,000 after
right.
The homeowner say that was he breached.
As I read it, I was like, you're a dummy. You can't spend that 5,000. That was just unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But I did ask you because I feel like you could have saved us on that last question where I thought that there was going to be a defense for condition of contract, but really because the owner was the one who made the oral no oral modification. So I'm just leaning on you a little bit because I like getting questions right. All right, let's try this one. A fugitive was wanted for murder. Would the private detective be likely to prevail in a breach of contract action against the authorities? So let's see. A fugitive was wanted for murder. The authorities offered the following reward: $20,000 to anyone who provides information leading to the arrest and conviction of this fugitive. A private detective knew of the reward, located the fugitive, and brought him to the authorities, who arrested him. The authorities then determined that while the fugitive had in fact committed the crime, he had been directed to commit the crime by his boss. The authorities and the fugitive then agreed that in exchange for the fugitive testimony against his boss, all charges against the fugitive would be dropped. The fugitive testified and was released. The authorities refused to pay the reward to the private detective on the ground that the fugitive was never convicted. I don't like that. Would the private detective be likely to prevail in a breach of contract against the authorities? I would say yes. Why would I say yes here? Because they should have convicted this person and he would have gone to it, but now they're using him as a setup man, right? The only reason he didn't get convicted is because we chose not to convict him, not because he shouldn't have been convicted, right? That's why I'd say D. The authorities themselves prevented the conviction of the fugitive. Yes. Because the private detective failed to notify the authorities that he had accepted the reward offer, because the express conditions set on the reward offer were met, because the authorities' agreement with the fugitive was against public policy.
I agree with D.
Yes, I agree with D. Yeah.
Awesome. I need that. D. Right? Because like I said, you were hindering the occurrence by negotiating a deal with the fugitive. You should have convicted this man. You just chose not to. All right, let's keep it moving. Good job. We made it through 25, but let's make it through as many as we can in the next 17 minutes. Has a contractor breached the contract? One would ask. A landowner and a contractor entered into a written contract under which the contractor agreed to build a building and pave an adjacent sidewalk for the landowner for $200. Later, while construction was proceeding, the landowner and the contractor entered into an oral modification under which the contractor was not obligated to pay the sidewalk, but would still be entitled to $200 upon completion of the building. We gotta think. This is common law, right? This is a service. This is oral modification. So,
Writing.
What'd you say?
A writing is needed for
Yeah,
a
writing
modification.
or some sort of consideration. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say consideration.
Yeah, not a writing. Consideration is necessary. We need consideration. The landowner and the contractor enter into an oral modification in which the contractor is not obligated to pay the sidewalk when entitled to 200 pound of the building. He completed. The landowner, after discussion with his landscaper, demanded that contractor pay the adjacent sidewalk. He refused. Has the contractor breached the contract by refusing to pay the adjacent sidewalk? There's definitely an argument there because we said that you need consideration, and there was no consideration.
D.
D is in dog?
Mhm.
We like D?
Pre-existing duty rule, no?
I like D too because, like, as we were saying it out loud, that's what I said. I was like, this is common law, this is a modification, this is a consideration. These questions do get tough sometimes because it's like, oh, well, in the means of justice and peace and justice for all. So I'm not 100% sure, but I like D. Does anyone have anyone disagree? Wrong. Oral modification was in good faith and therefore enforceable. This is not the UCC. I'm sorry, letter A. For all evidence, we're going with D as in dog?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the type of processes you got to be thinking. Like, as you're reading, this is common law, this is a modification, this needs to be consideration, there's no consideration. Next question, right?
Yeah.
This choice is referring to the UCC, but that's UCC. We were talking about common law. We were on top of this. I know right now I'm moving fast, but at the beginning we move slow. So, I'm trying to like give everyone something that they like. Some people like moving fast and doing more questions. Some people like really slowing down, but I'm just trying to provide value. If you were with me today, which all of you were, in the morning and the afternoon, you definitely learned something about contract or reinforce things that are valuable. And I'm happy to have you here. But let's finish strong. 15 minutes. This is what I live for. Okay. Which of the following statements best describes the effect of the seller's repudiation of the wheat contract on the buyer's rights under the soybean contract? A buyer contracted with a seller to purchase 10,000 bushels of soybeans at market price. Soybeans were to be delivered in 90 days. 2 days after the soybean contract was made, the buyer and the seller entered into another contract under which the buyer agreed to purchase $10,000 bushels of wheat from the seller at market price. These seem to be different contracts. Before the time for delivery of the soybeans, the seller notified the buyer that it would not deliver the wheat because the seller's wheat supplier had refused to extend additional credit to the seller, and therefore the seller had no wheat available for the buyer. Which of the following statements best describes the effect of the seller's repudiation of the wheat contract on the buyer's rights under the soybean contract? Me, as I'm reading this question, I'm thinking I have two contracts with one person. You already fooled me once on the first contract. I feel like I should be able to consider that with my other contract, just because it's like, I don't know, you seem like not the best businessman, but maybe I'm wrong.
I was thinking that it does. D, that it has no effect, but I was thinking that I didn't read that before.
I believe A, because the second contract is not going to be possible, so the buyer has the right to demand assurance for the first one.
Yeah, A's like the most fair answer, I think. At least
that's a good one.
Right, at least I'm going to demand assurances because you're giving me reason to think you're going to repudiate. To be fair, you had a pretty decent excuse, right? Your wheat supplier was XYZ, but like, I like A. Does anyone else like A?
I'm still going for D because they're separate contracts.
Yeah.
I like A.
Ooh, I like that. That sounded like a voice of confidence. Nice.
Oh, wow.
A is correct. The inability of the seller to perform its duties on the wheat contract gives the buyer reasonable grounds for insecurity regarding the seller's performance on the soybean contract. He may demand reasonable assurance of that performance. It's exactly what I was saying. D is incorrect. The two contracts are indeed separate and related, but a reasonable person like me would have grounds to believe that the seller would be unable to perform. I'm sorry, Grace, you're laughing.
I'm not reasonable.
I don't know.
Whatever. Yeah, you said it.
I think honestly I am reasonable. That's what I'm good at torts. I'm really good at thinking like what is the fair and reasonable thing to do. But you you're a mother. Sometimes you have to be unreasonable and just like, lay down the law.
Sure.
All right, we already did this chef one, but this is a different question, right? A famous chef, is the chef obligated to permit Newman to perform the chef decorator agreement? So it seems like we're having another party enter into the cooking scenario. A famous chef entered into a written agreement with his friend, a well-known interior decorator respected for his unique designs. Okay, so again, we know the story, in which the decorator agreed for a fixed fee to design the interior of the chef's new restaurant, and upon the chef's approval of the design plan, to decorate and furnish the restaurant accordingly. The agreement was silent as to assignment or delegation by either party, so we know it is assignable and delegable, but maybe not because of their unique skills. Before beginning the work, the decorator sold his decorating business to Newman under an agreement in which the decorator signed to Newman, and Newman agreed to complete the chef decorator contract. So sign it to Newman, Newman agreed to do it. Newman is also an experienced decorator of excellent repute, but unique designs. Newman, I don't think he could do it. Advise the chef of the assignment and supply him with information confirming both Newman's financial responsibility, blah, blah, blah. Is the chef obligated to permit Newman? The answer is no, because of the unique designs, right? It's not an ovation. It's C. Their personal nature, reputation, taste, and skill. He's well respected for his unique designs. We can't just exchange. I'm so bad. What's that mansion? The Versace. We can't just exchange Versace for someone else, right? C, right? Anyone disagree?
Yes, C.
C, right? This is Versace. Versace is one and only, I guess. I don't know. Do we like Versace, or has he been canceled? I know nothing about fashion.
Versace's dead.
Well, I mean, like, canceled as a living, canceled. I mean, like, he wasn't doing anything that would be really bad. I don't know. I know there was a Netflix documentary about him, so that's where I was like, oh.
Because he was killed.
Okay, cool. I mean, at least he didn't kill anyone. At least he's not Jeffrey Dahmer. All right. Is the bakery likely to prevail in a lawsuit against the chef for breach of contract? Man, this is all about chefs. Did we do this one? No, right? A bakery offered a chef a permanent full-time job as a pastry chef at a salary of $3,000 per month. The chef agreed to take the position and to begin work in 2 weeks. In her employment application, the chef had indicated that she was seeking a permanent job. 1 week after the chef was hired by the bakery, a hotel offered the chef a position as a restaurant manager, salary of $3,500 a month. The chef accepted and promptly notified the bakery that she would not report to work for the bakery. Is the bakery likely to prevail in a lawsuit against the chef for breach of contract? The answer here is no, because this is an at-will contract. You are an employer. You can leave whenever you want. This is not involuntary servitude. So no, because a contract for permanent employment would be interpreted to mean that the chef could leave at any time. I honestly don't even need to read the other three answers. I'm so confident, but I will read them anyway. No, because the position the chef took with the hotel was not substantially comparable to one. Yes, because the chef's acceptance of a permanent position meant that she agreed to leave the bakery after a reasonable time. No. Yes, because the chef's failure to give the bakery a chance to match the salary. No, you don't have to give him a chance. I mean, it could say you have to give him a 2 weeks notice, but that would have to be written into the contract, right? If it's just employment at will. We like A?
A is the
Yes, A.
A as in Andrew.
At will.
Awesome. At will. The characterization of the pastry chef position as permanent indicates that it was employment at will relationship, which may be terminated by either party at any time for any reason. Okay. Which of the following statements best supports the lender's position? A borrower owed a lender $500,000 on March 1st. On January 10th, the lender telephoned the borrower and said that he would discharge the debt if the borrower promised to pay the lender $45,000. The borrower on January 15th, the borrower responded, "I will attempt to get the money together." Okay. On January 11th, the lender again telephoned the borrower and said that he changed his mind and would expect the borrower to make full payment on the 1st. Seems like he could do that. On January 5th, the borrower tendered $45,000 as full payment, which the lender refused to accept. On March 1st, the borrower refused the lender's demand for $50,000, and the lender sued for that amount. Which of the following best supports the lender's position? Do you believe the lender is entitled to $45,000 or $50,000 here?
$50,000.
I think 50 too, because you said you'll attempt to get the money together. You never actually agreed to this thing. You said you'd attempt to do it, and it doesn't seem to be like a novation. There doesn't seem to be consideration. There seems to be a lot of reasons why you still are on the hook for 50. So which of the following best supports this lender's position? The borrower's January 10th statement was not a return promise, and therefore the lender effectively revoked his offer on January 11th. I like that off the bat. I will attempt to get the money together. Doesn't sound like a return promise. The January 10th telephone conversation between the lender and the borrower create an executory accord and therefore did not operate. I don't really know.
No.
Thank you. The lender's offer of discharge of debt was a gift promise and therefore not binding on the lender. No. The lender's promise to discharge the $50 debt was not enforceable because it was not in writing.
No.
You like A?
E.
It was not a return promise. I will attempt to get the money together. It's not a return promise.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a return promise. Okay. By returning an actual promise to pay the $45,000 by January 15th, the borrower's vague response to the offer on January 10th, although intentional, was not sufficiently promissory to constitute an offer to create a binding contract. Like that was just like the easiest thing. There might have been other things we could have gone through, but that jumped off the page to me. Done with the subcontractor. Okay. Is the buyer bound to the contract? A seller contracted to manufacture 1,000 toasters for a buyer for a specified price. The contract validly contained a provision that clearly stated this contract may not be assigned. Remember, it can't be assigned, it can't be delegated. And any violation of this prohibition voids the contract. After the contract was signed, the seller informed the buyer that the toaster would be manufactured by a competitor of the seller. Citing the non-assignment provision, the buyer claimed that it was no longer bound by the contract. Toasters manufactured by the competitor were of equal quality to toasters manufactured by the seller. Is the buyer bound by the contract? No, because the contract may not be assigned means that duties may not be delegated and the seller delegated duty. I literally said that this morning. No assignments mean no assigning and no delegating. No delegating only means no delegating. It can still be assigned. Yes, because the seller assigned a right despite the contractual prohibition. He didn't assign a right. He assigned a duty, right? A duty to perform. You have to make the toasters. Yes, because even though the seller breached the contract, there are no damages since the competitor's toasters are equal quality as the seller's toasters. That sounds right? But I don't think it is. Yes, because the non-assignment provision is non-enforceable since public policy favors breachers. No.
No, I think it's A.
Thank you. I think it's A too. And A is reinforcing of something I said earlier today. No assignment also means no delegation. No delegation is strictly construed to mean no delegation. You can assign. This contract may not be assigned, generally upheld by delegating a duty, blah, blah, blah. Excellent. Okay. If the seller sues the buyer on October 15th for breach of contract, the seller will probably, On June 1st, a seller and a buyer contracted in writing for the sale and purchase of the seller's cattle ranch, a large single tract, and to close the transaction on December 1st. On October 1st, the buyer told the seller, I'm increasingly unhappy about our June 1st contract because of the current cattle market, and do not intend to buy a ranch unless I'm legally obligated to do so. Straight out of my mouth, I said that 1,000,000 times in my life. That is not a repudiation. You are legally obligated to do so. So if the seller sues the buyer for breach of contract, the seller will probably lose because the buyer's statement was neither repudiation nor present breach of the June 1st contract. You all agree with me? Yeah. Because unless I'm legally obligated to do so, bro, you are going to be legally obligated to do so. That's not going to do nothing for you, right? Brief explanation is got to be clear and unequivocal. I literally have said this example. That's why when I'm talking and people are like, wow, you really know the law that well. I'm like, I don't know. I've just done a lot of these problems. And by doing so, I know the law really well. Did we do this one? No. I keep saying that. Is the court likely to admit evidence offered by the farmer? A farmer contracted to sell 100 bushels of wheat to a buyer. When the wheat arrived at the destination, the buyer discovered the farmer delivered only 96. Perfect tender. We have a problem. The buyer sued the farmer for breach of contract. At the trial of the case, the court found that the written contract was intended as a complete and exclusive statement of terms of the agreement. The farmer offered to prove that in the wheat business, a promise to deliver specified quantity is considered to be satisfied if delivered within 5% of the quantity. Let me do some math here. 96%. Oh, that's 4% of the quantity. Perfect. The buyer objected to the offered evidence. We're definitely bringing this in. Why? Because we're not always, but usually bringing in parole evidence. Why? Because the
usage of trade.
Yes, usage of trade. It explains or supplements the agreement by usage of trade. All right, excellent. Let's try and wrap this up. Maybe 2 more if we can get through them. All right. Can the baked goods producer legally reject the goods? Let's see. A flour wholesaler contracted to deliver to a producer of fine baked goods her flour requirements for a 1-year period. Before delivery of her first scheduled installment, the flour wholesaler sold its business and assigned all of its sale contracts to a miller, another reputable and long-tail wholesale flour person. The original flour wholesaler informed the baked goods person of the transaction. Assume that when the miller tendered the first installment to the baked goods producer in compliance with the flour wholesale baked good contract, the baked goods producer refused to accept the goods. Can he legally reject the goods? I don't think so, right? Because he contracted to find good her flour requirements for 1 year, right? So it's a requirements contract. Executory requirements contract are not assignable. Duties under an executory bilateral contract are assumable only by an express promise to perform. Yes, the language of assignment, the transfer value for bilateral sale of goods affects only transfer of rights, not the obligation of duty. No requirements contracts are assignable as long as the signing does not disproportionately alter the contemplated quantity. That'd be my guess.
That's the answer.
Not 100%, but I would say that A could be the answer if there's a rule of law that I don't know. But I don't know that rule of law, so I would go with D. Anyone disagree? Anyone think A is the answer? Let's go. Right, like they put things like that. Like as I read A, I'm like, executory requirements are not assignable. Is that like a part of my outline I didn't see? But then you come to realize, like, if you don't know something, don't assume it. Generally, all contractual rights may be assigned under common law. Requirements and output contracts were not assigned. Okay, good. At common law, they were not assignable. Under UCC, they are assignable. That's actually interesting to know. At common law, requirements and output contracts were not assignable, which is weird though, because it's like, what would be a requirements or an outputs contract that's not under UCC? Probably nothing. So don't even trip on that. They're going to be assignable. Everything's assignable unless it has a strict no assign clause. All right, this sounds cool. Golf course is a perfect way to end. You guys can go out and play golf in the pitch black darkness. Is the buyer likely to prevail? A developer contracted in writing to sell to a buyer a house on a 1 acre lot for $100,000. The developer told the buyer that the lot abutted to a national park and that the water for the house came from a natural artesian spring. The developer knew that both these representations were false. All right, he's going down. Developer's going down. The buyer moved into the house and 8 months later learned that a private golf course was being constructed in the adjacent land and that the water from his house was piped in from the city reservoir. The buyer immediately sued the developer to avoid the contract. Yeah, sure, because the developer's a scoundrel. The construction of the golf course will probably increase the market value of the buyer's property. It doesn't matter. And the water from the city's reservoir exceeds all standards. It doesn't matter. You lied to me, you induced me, and this is not cool. So is the buyer going to prevail? Yes, because the buyer retained the power to avoid the contract due to fraud. It's not void ab initio. Does anyone know what that means? What, Pablo, you're shaking your head? Yes.
From the beginning.
From the
Sorry.
beginning. Yeah, you're right. But it wasn't void from the beginning. It was void because you were a fraudulent fraudster. All right, took a while to turn green. All right, yeah, excellent. So, look, that's it for today in our questions. We did 35 questions. We got 2 wrong. The 2 we got wrong, I'm okay with. I'm always okay with getting questions wrong because we can learn from it. Here, if there is a no oral modification clause, but then the owner or the person, makes an oral modification, that same person can't go back and claim the defense. And then the other one we got wrong was the first one where it was about drilling into the ground and you hit that rock. Well, we assumed that the general contractor knew about the rock. We shouldn't have known that because they told us it was totally unexpected and unforeseeable. But I mean, to get 33 out of 35 as a team, I mean, maybe we had some people who've seen some answers, maybe I helped, but look, 94%, that's a really great feeling. You to pass, it's more like a 62%, right? But that's on minimum. I want everyone to shoot for 70% or higher in every single subject, closer to 80 if possible. I really hope everyone enjoyed this part of the course. We're gonna do it every week. Sunday afternoons are gonna be doing questions together. And we're not really gonna do contracts questions together until the final review session. So in the interim, especially this week and the next week or so, do tons of contracts questions. Really try and master MBE contracts questions this week. So thank you all so much.